What happens when you want to move to a country that does bad things to people? How do you reconcile with that philosophically? How do you handle that emotionally? If you want to leave your collapsing Western country and move to a country that's less bad, what happens if all of your options or your primary options or the option you actually choose is a country that does bad things? Or I should say that country's government does bad things. I've got a lot of questions from you about this, and in this video I'm going to analyze this in great detail. I am, of course, Caleb Jones. This is Sovereign CEO. I teach people like you how to create a location-independent income, move to a better country, or at least set up an international plan B and do all those things without having to spend a lot of money. I'm going to go through this, and at the end of this video, you will have a very different viewpoint on this if you actually go through this whole video and really think about this logically and objectively, which is hard for some of you, but I'm going to give you all the details on this. So, as most of you know, I moved to Dubai this year, early this year. I've been there almost a year now. Love it to death. And I did an entire video, a long video on why I chose Dubai out of all the other options that I had. I covered both the pros and cons of Dubai. If you want to watch that video for some context, you can click it right up there. That's what the video is. I go through all that stuff. And one of the things I mentioned in that video, and one of the comments I received on that video and some DMs and emails, is, but Caleb, you know, the UAE doesn't treat their lower class workers very well. And they give examples of lots of people living in apartments that are too small and various other factors like that. Well, why Caleb? Why, Caleb, would you support that by moving to Dubai, by living in the UAE? Why would you do that? Why would you support that? I'm about to describe to you why that statement makes literally no sense. And I will show this to you exactly and precisely right now. Number one, top of the list, and I have said this many, many, many times, but I'm going to describe it in more detail here. In the modern era, every country in the world sucks. They all suck. There's about 194 countries in the world. Unfortunately, we live in an era of great transition, of economic upheaval, and of Western collapse. And right now, unfortunately, there isn't a single country in the world that is actually really good, with very little or no downsides. Now, that used to be the case many years ago. Many years ago, 10, 20, 30 years ago, you could find some countries that didn't suck. Hong Kong, for many years, didn't suck at all. Is that true today? No. Switzerland, for many years, didn't suck at all. Is that true today? No. So there are no countries left that are good. They're all evil. They're all bad. They all suck. But, and this is the part that a lot of you are forgetting, but some countries suck less than others. So it's not an issue here of choosing a good country versus a bad country. It is an issue here of choosing a country that really sucks versus a country that just sucks. I would rather live in a country that sucks than a country that really sucks. That's how I look at the world. When people say, well, why did you move to this country, or why are you considering this country when their government does bad things? When people make that statement, the implication behind that statement is that you could go out somewhere and find a whole bunch of countries that had governments that didn't hurt anybody. Is that true? I want you to name me 5 countries. Give me 5 countries who have governments that don't abuse or hurt or mistreat a group of people. Give me 5 names. Ready, set, go. Oh, I don't hear anything. Interesting. I wonder why I don't hear anything. I wonder why you can't name off 5 countries that have governments that don't fuck with a group of people. Now, maybe you could find 1 or 2. There's a lot of countries in the world. Maybe out of the 194-ish countries in the world, you could find 1 or 2 that have governments that leave literally everyone alone, never brutalize or harm or hurt any other group of people or mistreat any group of people. Maybe you could do that. But then the question is, would you like to live there? So these hypothetical or real 1 or 2 countries that you found through your research, and I bet if we dug into the countries you have in mind, if we looked up Wikipedia and did some Google searches around, we could look at some bad things that the governments of those countries have done. But I'm being really nice here and giving you the benefit of the doubt and saying that you could find 1, 2 countries, maybe 3, that have governments that do not hurt anyone or abuse or mistreat anybody. Would you like to live in those countries full time? Probably not. You'd be like, no. And there you go. So if you want to escape your current shitty country that sucks, you're going to have to move to another country that also sucks, but doesn't suck as badly. This is not the era, unfortunately, where you had lots of options of countries that didn't suck. We just don't live in that world right now. I'm sorry, but we don't. So we have to deal with less bad instead of good. Here, I'll give you another example. I'm here in Paraguay. This is my Paraguayan apartment. This is my second home. This is my second flag. Love Paraguay to death. Paraguay's government is a goddamn clusterfuck. The government is totally corrupt. They will take hundreds of millions of dollars in tax dollars from their citizens, promising to give them health care and hospitals and vaccines and all kinds of things like that. And the president and his family and his cronies will take all the money and they'll blow it all on huge, lavish trips to the United States and Europe and put it all over social media, enraging the population. They've tried to impeach him twice. It's a mess down here. And for you to say, Caleb, why do you live in Paraguay? Why would you possibly support this horrible, evil, abusive presidential administration? Why do you endorse those actions by moving to Paraguay? I don't. Hello? I don't. But I will address that a little later in this video because that's just insane to even imply something like this. But before I get to that, I want to remind you of something. The fascinating thing to me, when guys criticize me moving to the United Arab Emirates, a country that I love and think is fucking great. As a matter of fact, the longer I stay there, the more I like it. When guys make those criticisms about Dubai or Paraguay or what have you, countries I live in or spend time in, invariably, these guys are guys who live in the United States or live in the UK. Do you have any idea the amount of atrocities the governments of those countries have committed recently and are now committing right this second? Are you insane? For a person in the United States to criticize the UAE, let me ask you a few very simple questions. How many civilians have been murdered by the armies of the United Arab Emirates? And how many civilians have been murdered by the armies of the United States? I suggest you do some Google research and you will be shocked to find it's not even in the same universe. It's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of 1%. The United States and many Western European nations, where a lot of these guys are making these criticisms, have armies that purposely bomb civilians. Yes, they bomb weddings, and you can say, well, that was an accident, Caleb. Let me tell you what isn't an accident. Barack Obama did this thousands of times. It's called a double tap. And again, I suggest you Google this if you didn't know. Barack Obama would drone strike a bunch of people in the middle of a small town in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, places like that. Then when the fire services and the ambulance and all the friends and family came out to help those people, they would circle the drone back around and bomb them. Barack Obama did that thousands of times. He personally signed off on it. Good job, Obama supporters. You guys are geniuses. Then along came Donald Trump, who increased Obama's drone strikes by 438%. Good job, Trump supporters. You guys are great. Do you understand how insane you must be if you criticize a government that sucks when you're sitting in a government that sucks far worse than the government that you're currently criticizing? And I'm not just using Dubai or Paraguay as examples. Any country that I could spend time in or anywhere else on the internet could spend time in, you say, why would you move there? Their government does this bad thing. I suggest you take a look at your own government and make a comparison. Again, they all suck. I'm not saying my countries are perfect. I'm saying they suck. I'm saying in most cases, your Western country is even worse. And it's your job to disseminate the least suck. It's very simple. This is not a binary black and white issue. How much does this country suck? How much does this country suck? Move here. It's very simple. I am absolutely blown away because I see this all the time. It's not just on my content, but other people's content. People who live in like the UK, Australia, Canada, United States, Western Europe, criticize these small little tiny countries as compared to these giant warmongering empire building nations that kill hundreds of thousands of civilians and have for decades. When they criticize these little countries about, well, they waste people's money and they lie to people and they don't treat workers very well. Comparison. Which one sucks worse? Not which one is good or bad. They're both bad. Which one sucks worse? Which one sucks less? Very simple. Matter of fact, if you want help identifying a country that sucks less than your current collapsing, warmongering, high-taxed, authoritarian Western country, you can get my course called Escape Plan at escapeplancourse.com. That's a video course that shows you the entire world, and I go through the entire world on various countries you can move to and regions you can move to and give you the specific steps on how to move to another country that sucks less than your current country. Not a country that's good, and I say that in the course. I said you can't find a good country, they don't exist anymore. But you can find a lot of countries that suck a lot less than your current country. Now, number 2, just because you live in a country does not mean you endorse everything that government does. I am quite sure, as I rattle off some of the atrocities committed by the United States government and Western European governments, a lot of you watched this video said, well, but I don't support that. Yes, I'm an American, I live here, but I don't support that. Then why do you think I support what the UAE or Paraguay governments are doing? Why are you holding yourself to one standard and holding me to a completely different standard? You think I like the negative things that the UAE or Paraguay or any of the other countries, Mexico, Panama, all the other flags I have, you think I agree with literally everything they do? Of course not. If you don't, why would I? You think I'm insane? You think I'm dumb? What the fuck? So no, when I move to a less bad country, I don't agree with everything in that country. I have spoken very clearly about the negatives of living in Dubai, what few there are for me. I've spoken very clearly about the negatives of living in Paraguay, what few there are for me. And if you don't want to live in Dubai or Paraguay, wonderful. There's another 190x countries you could move to that are less bad than your current country. But to assume that me or someone like me just supports everything a government does because I moved there, because I want to escape my really worst government, particularly the United States, is just irrational and insane. You'd have to explain that logically, and I'm pretty sure you can't. By the way, before I get to the third thing, you should do something. If you like this content, you should subscribe to this channel. You should click the dumb notification bell. You should leave a like on this video. You should leave a comment on this video. Doesn't matter what you say, even if you completely disagree with me, which is fine. The more interactivity I get in this content, the more of this content I will provide for you for free. The third and final thing on this is that when you move to a country that sucks but doesn't suck as bad as the country you're escaping from, you're not moving there to change their political system. That's not why you're moving there. Do you think I moved to Dubai or Paraguay or in a year or two Mexico to be a political activist and change their political? No, that is not why I'm moving there. I am moving there to improve my life. I'm moving there to pay less taxes. I'm moving there to avoid Western collapse. I'm moving there to make more money and have more investment opportunities in terms of international investments, international business. I'm moving there because I personally think that people in America have lost their minds and I don't like living around a bunch of insane people. There's a lot of reasons I left. None of these reasons have anything to do with I'm going to change their political system. When you say, well, why would you move there when their government does bad things? The implication is I'm moving there to make some kind of massive change. I'm not. As I've talked about many, many times in my videos and blogs over the past 10 plus years, you are not going to fix the world's problems. You're not. I'm sorry, you're not. The governments of the world are going to do whatever the fuck they want. You can vote for whoever you want. You can elect whoever you want, and the governments will still do what they want, as the Trump supporters recently discovered this year. So you should get off this thing about being worried about what governments are doing. You're not going to change these governments. I'm not going to change these governments. That's not going to happen. That's not the universe in which we live. Instead, you need to look at the world the way it is, objectively and rationally, and design a system where you can experience the maximum amount of freedom and happiness you can within that construct. I know it sucks. I know it's not fair, but that's the world we live in. Moreover, and I already did a video on this, you can click that right there, you can experience more personal freedom when you live in a less free country. Again, check that video out. I go through detail on that. So even if you theoretically think the country is less free or the government is more evil or more corrupt, you can experience a lot more freedom in that country than you could under your current collapsing authoritarian Western country. The example I've given many times is the typical location-independent American who moves from the United States to Mexico, a country that has a much more corrupt government than the United States, which is hard to say, but it's true, will actually experience more day-to-day freedom. That's how it works. Again, check out that video if you have any questions. But that's really it. Hopefully I've described to you why you're just not thinking rational at all when you make these excuses or ask these questions. And if you want more information on where you could move to, countries that suck, but suck less than where you are, you can click this video right here on 11 cool countries you can move to. I will see you in the next video. Have fun. Bye.